African people had some very profound concepts about the human being and went to great measures and put into place mechanisms to develop the best human being they could. In terms of their perspective about the human being was seen as a rising and setting sun around the world, a spiritually living reality in words, deeds, experiences, and images, a continuation genetically of old radiations under a new form, a radiating sun whose warmth of radiations never die at sunset, physical death. B represents the birth of a human being who is thought to be a rising sun in the community. F represents the death of a human being who is thought to be the setting of a living sun in the community. N represents the upper or physical world, M the lower or spiritual world, and K represents the invisible wall between the physical and spiritual worlds. The individual is thought to be on the evolutionary path where his highest destiny is the highest expression of him or herself, which could be achieved by making good choices, living an ethical and generative life, building good character, and fulfilling one's purpose. If one could achieve these tasks, one could potentially achieve the ultimate destiny, which was to become an ancestor, an immortal spiritual being. It was thought that one does not become automatically human by virtue of birth, however, but by gradually becoming a moral and spiritual person. So from birth to death, a person must go through a process of spiritual and moral formation, reformation, and transformation. A person's interiority or spirit is the home of inspiration, intuition, motivation, dreams, and all spiritual inclinations. So a lot of transforming work has to be done in this home, the innermost core of the person, and this was achieved in two ways, by education and rituals or rites. The purpose of education was to provide an education for living and an education for life. An education for living include the necessary information, skills, and techniques needed to live, like cooking, cleaning, and earning a livelihood, those things that we're familiar with. However, an education for life was to mold a person's innermost core into one that acquires positive human dispositions, such as reverence, respect, generosity, hard work, and self-control. It was thought that if one has not become a good, wise, and reliable person, one has not become a person yet. Education for life, education for living were considered inseparable. To know is to awaken to the experience of insight. If one has knowledge but no wisdom, then one does not know. One is considered to be educated if one has attained a significant amount of knowledge and a significant amount of wisdom. Rituals or rites are practices where a connection is made with the spirit world, where the sacred and secular come together. It's also a time when the community is in communication or communion with the ancestors. Rituals were done on special occasions such as birth, naming, marriage, healing, passage from childhood to adulthood, or other stages in the cycle of life. The cycle of life included going from the spiritual world to the physical world. The physical world included conception, birth, maturity, and death. One went from childhood to adulthood to eldership to back to the spiritual world. The spiritual world consisted of communities of spirits. The community of spirits included those who incarnated on earth and are at different stages in the rebirth process. Ancestors, those who incarnated on earth and evolved to become immortal. Those who have never incarnated on earth but are involved in earthly affairs, and those who intervene occasionally. Those who are involved in other aspects of the universe, order in its affairs, and other spiritual intelligences and beings. Rites of passage. The aim of rites of passage was to bring about an energetic shift to awaken the individual to the stage of life he or she was entering into, and then taking them through a process so that they would be clear about who they are and what their responsibilities were at this phase in life. The goal was to know where you came from, the legacies of your people, who you were in the context of your people and society, and what your responsibilities were, what it meant to be a man and or woman in that society, and why it was important to live a good, ethical, and generative life. You were expected to get married, to have children, and taught how to be a good husband and wife, and further, to carry out your purpose. From adulthood to eldership, the goal was to continue to do good and to use one's wisdom to guide the community so that one could continue one's evolution to become an ancestor, an immortal spiritual being who would continue to guide the community from the spirit world.